shown us that over time they seem to prefer being raised in pools. There's water.
Alright, you guys, it looks like we are getting started here with our male killer whales. Right in front of us here, that is Tuar. As I mentioned earlier, he is 25 years old, just over 8,600 pounds. Some of his more identifying characteristics, you'll notice that those two eye patches, or the white areas on either side of his head, are quite a bit smaller than Kyuquot's eye patches. Tuar also has a much more longer and narrow face than Kyuquot does. And something kind of unique about, well, marine mammals is that you kind of may be looking at them going, well, I thought all mammals, in order to be a mammal, you have to have hair. So at some point in their life, they did have hair. So when all marine mammals are born, they do have what are little tiny hairs all along the front of their rostrum. In Tuar in particular, you can see those hair follicles pretty more defined on either side of his rostrum, those little indents. Those are where when he was first born, he had some hairs that helped him to locate his mother's mammary glands. And then after a couple of days or a couple of weeks after being born, those hairs fell out. So some of the other characteristics of being a mammal is that they do produce milk and nurse their young. So on the female killer whales, if you were to look at them upside down, they have what we call a division sign. It's something that makes a female apart from the male killer whales. They have one long slit with two smaller ones on either side. The two smaller ones are their mammary glands. And right now it's a great look on Tuar. On his lower, you'll see one long slit with a smaller one at the bottom, like an exclamation mark. That makes him a boy. So we call it the division versus exclamation mark rule. So with the marine mammals, they give live birth. It's another characteristic of being a mammal. Right in the middle of Tuar's stomach, you may have seen a tiny black dot. That's actually his belly button. When these animals are born, you'll have noticed that Tuar's tongue in particular, you can see how they kind of roll up a little bit. When they are younger, they have frills along the sides of those tongues that they're able to curl up and make their tongue almost like a straw, which they're able to put into their mother's mammary glands to nurse underwater. These animals are also able to regulate their own body temperature just like we are. So while the water they live in is about 52 degrees, kept that way 365, 24/7, their internal body temperatures are usually between around, I would say, 93 to 97. Our animals and other husbandry behavior they know is actually to get a temperature. We have temperature probes that they are able to take through their rectally and to get that temperature from them. Another research study that they actually were working on out in San Diego is collecting a body temperature from their exhales from their blowholes. So something that this project is working on is actually having drones flying over killer whales out in the natural environment and collecting that exhale as they're breathing while they're swimming around. And they have found that it's a pretty good measure of the internal body temperature from that temperature of that exhale. Right now you see Danny is interacting with Tuar with one of our environmental enrichment devices. We call that a hoop. It's also made one of those more durable materials for them to interact with. So those pectoral flippers, the really big ones on either side of their body, they are called flippers because they have bones. So if you did not know the difference between a flipper and a fin, it's that flippers have bones and fins do not. So that flipping on their back and their tail flukes do not have any bones in them, but those pectoral flippers do. So if you were to take an x-ray of those flippers, you would actually see 5 bones or 5 digits, just like we have in our own hands. That is why they're able to maneuver those pectoral flippers around. It helps them with stopping and steering out in or while they are swimming. We have a question about Tuar's teeth here. So Tuar here, as these whales are aging, as I mentioned earlier, they lose their teeth for their lives. When they're first born, their teeth are actually hollow. So as they age, they develop rings around the inside of their teeth to fill it in. So most likely at some point in these animals' lives, if when they are younger, they are interacting with something and it happens to open up, it's just going to remain hollow. The way that we take care of our animals' teeth these days is much different than how they used to do it for taking care of different things health-wise with these animals. But also, if you think about animals, just like people have different genetics, so some animals just have different dental health than humans or than other whales. Right now, in the center of the pool, you'll see Kyuquot doing a behavior called a spy hop. This is a naturally occurring behavior that we see both in our cares and also out in the wild. It's something they need to take a look and see what's going on around them. So this is a behavior that we're working on with our whales. We do it during our presentations. We're also teaching them to add what are called modifiers, which is doing another behavior while they're doing another behavior. So what that means is that when they're doing those spy hops, we can ask them to make a vocalization, or we can ask them to also squirt water while they're doing that spy hop behavior. Modifiers are something that we can add to a whole wide range of behaviors that they do. Right now, Danny actually asked for a modifier for a certain behavior called a perimeter swim. Normally, we just ask them to swim around the pool, and this one is a spin swim. So she is asking to swim around the pool while also spinning. Other modified behaviors that we can do, modify bow. So bow is those jumps that you see them do during our presentations. We can ask them to produce vocalizations or squirt or even wiggle their pectoral flippers while they're doing those bows. Adding modifiers to behaviors is a great way for us to actually help with their mental stimulation throughout the day, as well as the fact that these guys are lifelong learners, just like we are. So they are always learning something new, and they're always working on different things. It's also good for us to come up with different games for them to play and all those different enrichment to also keep them nice and mentally stimulated. It looks like Kyuquot is coming over to the slide out to come and hang out with us over here in just a moment. If any of you folks were here last weekend, you may have noticed that our Inside Look programs actually took place in our stadium. This weekend we are doing them back here in our back area. After you guys get home today, you will likely be receiving an email from our part with a survey asking you guys about your experience. We would love to know your thoughts on what Inside Look was like. Out here right in front of us is Kyuquot. You may notice that on the right side of his rostrum he has what look like little freckles. Those are some of his identifying birthmarks. As I had mentioned earlier, Kyuquot's eye patches are a lot larger than Tuar's are. Kyuquot here is 32 years old. He will actually be 33 in just about a month. December 24th, Christmas Eve baby right here. A pretty common question that we get is, how do these animals sleep? So they do what is called unihemispheric sleeping, which means they sleep with half of their brain at a time. So they're able to kind of turn down one half of their brain and let it rest. They can do that for anywhere for a couple minutes to a couple of hours, and then they can switch sides. So you may see these animals swing around with one eye closed. That can indicate that the other half of their brain is currently sleeping. So that while we breathe without thinking about it, these guys are what are called voluntary breathers. So they actually have to have part of their brain awake to be able to remember to come up and breathe air. Also, while they're out in the wild, if they were to have calves with them, they would like to have half their brain awake so they can also keep an eye on what that calf is doing. Another very common question we get is, how do you train these animals? So as I talked about reinforcers and our bridge or our whistle, we use a combination of positive reinforcement and operant conditioning. Right now, Josh is holding up what is called a target pole. We teach these animals to touch the front of their rostrum to that white buoy at the end of that target pole. They will hear a whistle, which means good job. Over time, we're able to teach them to follow that target pole as we move it around, and they learn that the motion that they're doing is the behavior that we are shaping for them. We will pair a hand signal, so we'll usually show them some type of hand signal before we start maneuvering with that target pole. And over time, they learn that that hand signal is associated with the behavior that we have shaped, and we are able to fade out the use of that target pole. During presentations, you may notice at times using those target poles to tap on the surface of the water or even throwing ice cubes in. We call that a prompt. So it's kind of like we're giving them a reminder of this is where that behavior is performed. Or it's also used as an intensity of, hey, remember this is where you're supposed to be. It helps them to remember and move a little faster. Because just like us, we forget something that we've known for a long time. They do too. Sometimes we throw in reminders for them. We will also like to do that proactively to help them with the behaviors that they are performing. That behavior that Kyuquot just did was hold a mouth open. Cassidy was asking him to hold his mouth open. That's an important behavior for us because that's actually how we do those teeth cleanings that I had talked about earlier. So another reinforcer that we can use for them, along with that tactile reinforcement, is those bucket sponges. They seem to enjoy the sensation of the water hitting their skin or hitting the inside of their mouth. They don't drink any of the water that they are in, so it's just the sensation of the water hitting the back of their mouth or their backs. You also may see us during shows, we'll bring out a hose and we'll pour the hose into their mouth or on various portions of their body. When we first came over here, you may have noticed our sprayers were on. We'll often see them going in those sprayers and they'll put their dorsal fin in the sprayer or their tail flues. They just seem to enjoy the feeling of that water pressure on different parts of their body. Our sprayers in the back holes as well as in our front hole are actually motion activated. So we're able to leave that on for them overnight or during the day, and they actually know where to go throughout in our pool to go and turn on that motion sprayer so they can turn on for them. We do also have bubbles that come from the grate in our front show pool that they can turn on motion-wise as well. Joining us today, whether you knew it or not, but just by visiting the park, you help to support not only Seaworld Rescue, which has been able to rescue, rehabilitate, and release over 41,000 animals, but you also help to contribute to the SeaWorld Busch Gardens Conservation Act, which has been able to raise over $18 million for over 1,200 organizations all over the world, helping animals from tigers to killer whales. So we thank you guys so very much for being here today. Without you, we could not do the work that we do. And I hope you guys enjoy the wonderful rest of your day here at SeaWorld San Antonio, and have a great week.